Hello, it's Honey again. And unlike my normal videos, today's not going to be an update video. As I've said previously, I pretty much achieved the things that I wanted to achieve, and I'll only bring up specific things that are happening from time to time. Today's video is going to be more of a response to the fact that since getting my GRC, I've had quite a few people contacting me via the comments and private messages, and in a group that I'm part of as well, that have been asking me questions about it. And I'm basically just going to go through some, like an FAQ, to help people understand / reframe how they're thinking about it and what it is they're trying to achieve with it. Because sometimes I think people are getting confused and hung up on certain bits, and it isn't easy, and it is a little bit complicated, but you can get through it, and to a certain degree it's just about how you think about it. So with that in mind, I'm just going to say, as I've said in a few videos before, a bit about what it is. And you should watch those other videos where I was trying to get mine, where I said about why I wanted it and what it does. If you think about the GIC, they're there to help you achieve your diagnosis and your medical goals and your socialisation goals and whatever it is that you're trying to get to. And they will help you to achieve your medical goals, social goals, etc., etc. If it's further surgeries you want, if it's voice therapy, if it's social transition support and things like that. That's what the GIC is supposed to do for you. If you're applying for your GRC, what you're doing is applying for a document which changes your relationship legally with the world. So the GIC are more helping you socially and medically. The GRC certificate helps you legally in the world, and is how you get full rights and recognition under the 2004 Gender Recognition Act, and it's also how you get, the full legal rights of the gender that you're transitioning to. So it's more of a legal thing, and I think people get hung up on that because, of course, the evidence for it does involve quite a bit of medical stuff, but you need to think about it when you're applying for it as it's a legal document that's helping you to frame yourself legally within the government, and how the government interact with you and how society legally interacts with you. And that's what it's there for. Although medical stuff is important for it and is a requirement of it, it's only a part of it. And a lot of the questions I get around it are to do with like what medical stuff they need and why they need it. The other one I've had is why there needs to be somebody who can administer oaths involved, and not just like with your passport where it has to be a reputable person, like a professional or a police person or a religious a clerical person or whatever. Why it has to be somebody who's able to administer an oath legally. What you've put on that form is is your intent. It's basically it's a promise to the government that you haven't lied in anything, you're not misleading anyone in any way, and that this is your intentions and that's what you're going to do, not just now but going forward. So that is why it has to be somebody who can administer an oath like that. So that really does leave just the barristers and solicitors. The good news is it's not too hard to get a solicitor. I doubt you'll find a barrister, but unless you know one, but a solicitor, you can find a solicitor who can do it. and hopefully you'll have a reasonably good experience with them. If they're a family solicitor that you've used before, all the better. But if not, this isn't like with your passport where it has to be somebody who's known you for X number of years. This is just a legal oath that they're basically a bit like when you have a witness at a wedding. It's just a legal witness with the power to assign oaths that can say, oh yeah, this is this person's intent, and that they have the power to sign off on that. They don't have to know you for a specific length of time, so you can just find a lawyer and hire them to sign off on the documents for you, which is much like the GRC certificate application form itself is now. Those signatures are limited to £5. That's a legal limit. They can't charge more than that for that signature. That doesn't stop them trying to rope you into other services and things like that could cost you more, but legally they're only allowed to charge you £5 for that service. The same as with actually the application form for the GRC certificate, which was reduced from £140 to £5 now. It has improved a lot. It's a bit early to say yet whether or not that reduction in price will be enough to see a significant uptake in the use of it, but I hope it will, and I hope that price is not the barrier that's stopping people from getting it now. And I hope that people see the value in, because it's still money, and if things are tight, it might not be your top priority, but I hope that people see the value in applying for it, and that helps. Next, I want to move on to some more of the general questions I'm getting around it about like applying for it and everything. I have been asked to do like really detailed videos. It starts out at 1 point and then 2 points and then 4 points and so on, to the point where I'd have to make like 36 different videos in order to cover everyone trying to get through the process. So at the moment, unless I get specific requests for specific sections, I would just say, or just do general guidance. And really the best bit of advice I can give you is actually use the .gov website and other websites like Gender Intelligence, because like Gender Intelligence and places like that will tell you how to go through a great many of these processes. Forums can be helpful, but to be honest, the .gov website itself is actually, for once, a really good source. If you just type in GRC in the search bar, it comes up with all the sections and all the hyperlinks of what you need. Now, when you apply for the GRC, there's 3 routes to get through it, and I think this is, like I said before, where it all starts to fracture off immediately. If I was to do a detailed video, it would only involve the experience that I have, which would be for applying via the standard route. So the standard route is the T450 form, and each one of these forms also has a how to complete booklet that comes with it, which you can also download. You can get any of this off of the .gov website in PDF form. And so you've got the T450 form for the standard route with the T451 form for the leaflet on how to complete it, which you could just go over at your own leisure. And when I went through, I was doing them literally side by side. I'd have one open and the form on how to complete the form as I was going, double checking things, making sure that I was understanding what it was I was being asked and how it applied to me. And that really is the best advice I can give, is to just go through each one by one and chase down the correct answer for you. The next one is the alternative route, as they call it, which is the T464 form with the accompanying leaflet, which is T465. And basically when you go on the site, the .gov site, it tells you about the 3 paths, and there is a general breakdown of which one you should be applying for based on the criteria you meet. And I'll go through those a bit more in a minute. But then the final option is the overseas route, which is the T453 form, and the informational leaflet, which is the T454 form. And with these, again, on the .gov website, you can literally just go to the search bar and type in those T numbers, which is why I'm giving them to you, and that will instantaneously take you to the documents that I'm referring to for each of these. The standard route one, which I took, meant that you had to have a diagnosis, and this isn't an exhaustive list because I haven't got it open in front of me, but you can find them on the .gov website. But it meant that you had to have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, gender incongruency, or transsexualism from the GRC or private parties which were qualified to give you that diagnosis. You had to have lived in your current gender for a minimum of 2 years, and you had to have the necessary medical reports, proof as well of evidence of having lived in your role for a minimum of 2 years, and weirdly it also involves a lot to do with your marital status as well. So there's a whole plethora of things to do with marriage, and which complicate things a lot more. You had the alternative route, which was for people that had had gender confirmation. One of the differences is that you could have had gender confirmation surgery. It was also for people that had been in a same-sex relationship or civil partnership for more than 6 years, I believe it was. No, sorry, for people that had got married before 2010 or 2014. And it was also for people that had been living in their gender role for more than 6 years. And these are just the rough differences. Again, they're on the .gov websites, and I've given you the T-form numbers for each. And then there's the overseas route, which if, say, you were a Canadian or American or someone, or from wherever, for example, but you had gone through their legal processes and their medical avenues, and you were then moving here and you wanted to have the same legal rights, then you could use the overseas route, and it just gives you a list of the things that you need to have as evidence to prove where you're coming from and that you've met the criteria for gender reassignment surgery or time lived in your gender role, that you met their criteria in the countries they were coming from for changing your gender legally. Now, to bring it back on to the medical stuff, the medical diagnosis, when you do your gender recognition form, they ask for medical report A and B. At least one of those medical reports needs to be from a gender specialist. Now, if you're going via the NHS pathway and you've gone for the GIC, they will have, at least one of those people will already have been a gender specialist, if not both of the people that assess you anyway, before you even start treating you, because at the GIC you are seen by 2 clinicians before you start being treated. And at least one of those will have been a gender specialist, and they will have the necessary qualifications to write said report. Either report A or B, as I said, has to be completed by a gender specialist. The other report, whether it's A or B, depending who writes which report. Now that could be a gender nurse practitioner even at the GIC, or it can be by your GP. They don't have to be a gender specialist as such, they just have to be clinical medical personnel. So they're relatively easy to get, assuming you have access to either a private doctor who could write that for you, your GP, if they're supportive, could write that form for you. The non-specialist report is relatively easy to get hold of. However, if you're struggling to get hold of a specialist report because you can't wait for the GIC, or you don't want to, or you're just fortunate enough that you don't have to, you can afford to go private, then you can find a private gender specialist who can write one of those for you. There's usually links in the bottom of my videos, and I will update those as from this video with more options for people that you can go to. The other option is on the .gov website if you need a report written by a medical specialist who can help you out. Again, it's another one of these T forms, but T493, if you put that in the search bar on the .gov website, that will take you to a 16-page list of gender specialists which the government will recognise. And this isn't an exhaustive list, it's just a list of 16-page list of contacts and people that are capable of writing that report if you're able to contact them and, you know, agree to see them or be seen by them, or just have them write the report for you, look into your medical history, whatever. I don't know, I didn't have to go that route, but so the T493 form could be a way to get you that medical report if you're stuck and you're really hurting to get somebody who can write the approved medical report. And so besides that evidence from the 2 medical reports, the main thing that counts, again, because you're trying to prove history of living in your gender role and the fact that you're going to stay in said gender role, is that you have history, basically. If you socially transition before you get to the GIC, then I would suggest you, as a tip, I suggest you create a folder and you keep or start keeping any correspondence, and you could have completed social transition easily before you're ever seen by a GIC clinic. So keep that evidence, bills, IDs, correspondence with government agencies, correspondence with your employer, pay slips, end of year tax reports, things like that. Anything that has, you know, your new name, new title, and even better if it's, you know, somehow like your driving license and passport is able to say female or whatever, or you know, show that you've changed your gender role. All that evidence counts more than medical stuff to a certain degree. They want to see the more mundane, the more routine stuff of the way that you're interacting in society and again with the government. They usually want 2 to 3 pieces for every year. Don't go overboard with it. So the first piece of evidence has to go back 2 years at least before the date of your application. So you have to be able to prove a full 2 years, and then you should have a smattering of proof between then and now, and that can be 2 to 3, or should be 2 to 3 pieces for those years. Assuming that you're applying for the standard route, and say that you had transitioned 10 years ago, they don't want a decade's worth of paperwork, because it, you know, you could end up with a binder full of it like this. It only has to go back, you know, from basically something quite recent within a few months to just beyond the 2-year mark, to accredit you for that full 2-year period. I think I used 3 pieces of evidence going back for almost 3 years to the current date. So I had basically 2 full years back from when I applied for the application, and a little bit more either way, just to make sure I was covered. And again, this is non-medical evidence, so letters from the GIC for that wouldn't count. Letters between your doctor wouldn't count. So that's where I think people are getting confused between drawing a line between medical evidence, which is important. It does need to be in there, and there's specific sections for that. The reports A and B are just there to prove that you've had a diagnosis, that you are in fact, you know, gender dysphoric, gender incongruent, transsexual, whatever label, you know, best fits for you, and that you're being seen by the GRC for that, and that you've had some medical procedures, if you wanted them, that help towards that and alleviating that. But the majority of it is to do with proof this isn't some sort of, you know, wacky scam that you're trying to do, or, you know, some sort of weird beguiling I don't know, whatever crazy shit it is the media and half of society seem to think we're up to. I don't know, because strangely enough we're not doing any of that shit, so who knows. But it's just an agreement with you and the government that you're this person, you're going to live as this person, you want to be recognised legally, formally, now and forever as this person in this gender role going forward till they put you in the ground and beyond, because you do get to get new birth certificate, new which means that you'll be issued the correct gender for your death certificate and things like that. So, you know, it is important. It's going to cover the whole length of your lifespan and beyond. So, you know, that's why this evidence is there. That's why it's required. I hope that this has helped sort of peel back the mists a little bit. Hopefully that will help you. Again, the .gov website, believe it or not, is actually the best source for all of this. The other major thing that I would say is that they have a helpline. Again, I will include their phone number in the description in this particular video, so it'll be there. But if you are applying, they do fill out the forms, get as far as you can. If you're still worried about anything, they have a number. You can ring that number and speak to somebody on like the admin team. You can also email them. It will be in the link, it will be in the description below, but you can either email or ring them if you're more comfortable, and ask them some of the questions that you're not sure about. I did, and they were helpful. They did want to help. They you know, it was a useful resource, and the .gov website is there to help and make it, I wouldn't say transparent, but make it doable, to make sure that you have the information you need to successfully fill in the form and get the result you're looking for, assuming you meet all the criteria. Then, you know, you should be able to use what's there to get you where you need to be. So yeah, make use of the .gov website resources, make use of the email line, make use of the number to make personal inquiries about your application and how it applies to you. And, you know, obviously continue to use forums, websites like Gender Intelligence, and, you know, reaching out to people like me that have already been through it and are willing to answer a few questions on it. With that said, I hope this is helpful, and till next time, bye.